Hello, everyone. This is MMA Interesting Prospects podcast. Today, our guest is Logan Paxton, who will fight on APFC 18, July 27th. Hello, Logan. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for taking the invitation. And actually, I think that your next fight is quite a big one. I think that it's overall a step up in competition because your opponent is like seasoned fighter. He's got a lot of experience. So, if you can tell me, what do you think about him as the opponent for you at this moment of your career?
Yeah, man. No, I think you hit it. You hit the nail on the head. Definitely, the guy I'm fighting is a little bit more of a veteran. He's been around. I think he has around 14 fights professionally, some kickboxing experience, Muay Thai, all that good stuff. So, definitely looking forward to getting on a bigger platform like APFC, fighting on UFC Fight Pass with such a game opponent. That's exactly what I wanted. I think I'm at that point in my career where I could really use, that pivoting point to get some better competition, some guys that I can go out there, get the finish with, and just really make a statement. So I know a little bit about this guy because he's fought one of my teammates, Benjamin Bennett, on bare knuckle boxing. I remember watching that and thinking, okay, this guy, he's down to scrap. He brings the energy, but I love that. So that's just going to make the fight itself so much more entertaining for me and the crowd, the fans. When I have a game opponent, it brings the best fighter out in me. So I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to this.
And probably there is a big chance that this fight will finish before the final bell because you've got seven finishes. He's got, I believe, eight. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a big chance that it will be a finish in this fight.
That's it. That's it, brother. I feel like we're in a new era of the UFC and MMA and just the prospects on the rise. You can't just win anymore. That's always the goal, of course, but UFC, everyone they want to see you make a statement, and I think me and Armus both we're going out there to make a statement and show that we can finish this fight. Um, I think that's just the nature of the beast in this game now. You got to go out there and hunt the finish.
And also, I think that you are in the very good moment of your career because you are on the seven fight winning streak. Then, if you will win this fight, it will be eight. So the question is, with this additional win, what do you think should be next for you? Do you think about like UFC after this fight?
Yeah, that's the coolest part. I mean, like you said, I'm in a great place professionally. I'm hungrier than ever. Like you said, I fought, I think, 5 times last year. I'm on a 7 fight win streak. I've been staying super active and busy as much as possible. Unfortunately, I had a few fights fall through leading up to this one, but this one looks like it's going to stick. We're on fight week now, so my goal, my plan is to go out there, make a statement, get the finish like I have been doing. Nothing changes there, and then obviously I'm going to call my shot because where I'm at in my career, I know I deserve something bigger next. Two things I have in mind are the APFC lightweight championship belt. I know that's vacant. I even though I'm fighting at welterweight for this one, I can make lightweight, and I think that would be my home when I go to the UFC or a bigger show. So I'm going to call for the lightweight belt for the short term. That's going to be what I want next. But obviously, my aspirations are set higher for the UFC. That's the dream, that's the goal. So I'm obviously going to shoot my shot and call out that I think it's my time. I have finishes. I look the part. I walk the walk. So I think it's time for me to get the role.
And when I checked your record, I saw that you have like many bouts which were cancelled before, like they didn't happen. So if you can tell me how frustrating it was to have this like fights booked, and in the end you really don't fight.
Yeah, man. I'll say that's one thing that I come from a wrestling background to where I wrestled every weekend, and it's guaranteed. You go out there, you compete, you train, you perform. There's the successes can be had with fighting. It's the dark side of the sport is that you never guaranteed to fight. You can work 8 weeks to hard training camp. You can weigh in. You can do everything right, but at the end of the day, if your opponent doesn't show up, you don't get paid, you don't get the accolades, you don't go anywhere besides just becoming a better mixed martial artist, which is great, but there's no success at the end. So it's been extremely frustrating. I had a great year last year of people not backing out, so I got used to just fighting almost every other month. I loved it. That's how I operate the best. Is success breeds success. I want to fight as much as possible. I want especially if I'm healthy. This is my job. This is my career, and I want to set myself up for success. But unfortunately, this year, I think because of my record and how deep it's gotten now, the fact that I'm 8-1, like you said, I have 7 finishes. I think it's just a lot harder to get those opponents locked in. And I think even when guys say yes, they're not fully committed, and they're always looking for a way out because as you me both know, training camps are long and you get injuries. Things happen, and I think those little seeds of doubt get planted in their heads and they end up backing out. So me and my manager, who I believe you talked to, Sergio, we had 3 bouts scheduled this year, and honestly, all three all three got scrapped on fight week. It was atrocious, and it really kind of threw me for a roller coaster this year of just the highs and lows. Luckily, I'm a seasoned fighter now, so I'm used to that dance. I'm used to that tail of the tape, but it still hurts. It still hurts, and it makes it hard to prepare yourself for that next camp. That's why I'm so grateful for my opponent on APFC. He took the fight in 2 weeks' notice because I had a previous opponent. He backed out 2 weeks ago, and luckily we're able to find a replacement. He seems game. I think he comes to fight. I think if he says he's in, he will be in. So I feel really good about having this one locked in.
And probably this is a kind of fighter that can take fight with you, because I think that other prospects also like taking into the consideration your wrestling background, like when you have like 4-0 or 5-0 fighter and he's thinking more about UFC, he probably will
Mm-hmm.
not be interested in taking this kind of fight. But when you have like the veteran of the sport who lost few fights, but of course he won also a few against good fighters, he will be more interested because he can take a big win, or if he gonna lose, it will be like another loss in his career, so it will be not end of the world.
Yes, of course. I think you hit the nail on the head again. A lot of these guys, myself included, you have to take your career very seriously. And when someone has never lost and they have that perfect record, you kind of do have to baby it a little bit. You kind of have to curate it in a way that the UFC is going to be, excited to see a undefeated fighter. And so I get that mentality. I do get that. And so it's like those risks, a lot of guys don't want to take it. But at a certain point, you kind of have to step out of your comfort zone. This is fighting, like it's not comfortable, and you kind of just have to take on those bigger challenges. And I think, like you said, with my opponent having lost a few close fights, having been through the ringer, I think he's more game just to show up and fight. Not necessarily worried about the winning, the losing, the record. He just wants to fight, and I respect that. That's at the end of the day, that's what I want to do too. So I think we're gonna have a really good showing.
And when I checked your record, I saw that you had a lot of fights in Alaska in I believe two promotions. So if you can tell me, did you live there?
No, so I never lived in Alaska. It's basically a second home now. I've been there, like you said, I've been there so many times. So unfortunately, when I was coming up in my pro career, I think I was around 2-1, still pretty early on. I got connected with a promoter out in Alaska. Solid Rock FC was my original contact with Melinda was her name, and I got this through again. I was speaking of my teammate Benjamin Bennett. He is from Alaska, and me and him have always been, good training partners, good friends. So I actually went out there and cornered him for a fight when he was fighting out there in Alaska, and I kind of, made some connections with the promoter, like I said, of Solid as a Rock, and they said they would love to have me on. So a few short months later, I was fighting at lightweight again, for my first time out there. I think for my third or fourth professional fight, and it was a great experience. They run a really good show. They're very professional, and funny enough, the guys in Alaska, they're down to fight. Like they don't pull out. Like so it felt like if I went out there and like I was able to get a matchup, I was safe knowing that these guys would not pull out because they're bred different in Alaska. I think because of the crazy weather, the crazy, the darkness for 30 days or however it works. They're just down. They just want to, just have some fun. So I was fortunate to where I fought out there 4 or 5 times. I ended up getting the welterweight title for Solid as a Rock championship. That was actually my last fight back in January. And so in a way, it's kind of become a second home. They've always treated me great. The fans are amazing. Alaska itself is gorgeous. So honestly, at any time, I'm down to go back and fight for them.
And when you because you wrestle or you like wrestle also in college, right?
Yes, sir. I wrestled at North Dakota State. I was a D1 wrestler. At that time, I was a lot heavier. I don't know if you know this, but I was wrestling up to 197 pounds in college, and even heavyweight my first 2 years in college. So I was a lot bigger, and now I fight all the way down to lightweight. So it's been kind of a crazy story.
And at that point, when you like wrestle in college, did you consider like MMA as the career that you would like to take, or it's like later on you thought it as the like way to go?
Sure. Yeah. No. So I kind of joined everything a little bit later in my life. I didn't find wrestling until I was a sophomore in high school, until 2 years into my high school time. And immediately when I started wrestling, I was like, "Oh, this is so much fun! I want to do this. I basically do this for my brothers all the time, and I can do this for a sport. Let's go!" So I bought all in. I wrestled. I ate, drank, slept wrestling. I just all I did. And then shortly after, by the time I was a junior in high school, I started watching a little bit of UFC, a bit of MMA because some of the guys on the team were affiliated with it. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like this seems like the most badass thing possible to do. And so I wasn't quite sure I wanted to fight yet, but I knew I liked fighting. And so it wasn't until I was a freshman in college, I was wrestling for Sacramento City College, and I had a buddy on the team who was training with the Diaz brothers at the time in Stockton, Nick and Nate. And of course, I've heard of Nick and Nate. I was a big fan. I was a big fan of Conor McGregor too. So seeing the rivalry was just awesome. So when I was a freshman in college, my buddy George Landeros, he said, "Hey, why don't you come out and train with me a little bit?" And I was like, "Oh shit, let's go." So I remember going out to the gym in Stockton back when those guys were still, predominantly focused on MMA rather than boxing as they are now. And I remember I was there my first day, and I was just a big wrestler. I've boxed, with my friends messing around, but my first legit sparring session, like boxing in the ring, was against Nate Diaz. My first time ever, and he was in training camp. I forget who at the time. It might have been for Pettis, I believe, or it was Pettis or Masvidal. I forget when he was kind of coming back. And yeah, he just needed a guy to get some rounds in. And I remember thinking, this is so wild. Like I just, first time in a fight gym, and I'm sparring Nate Diaz. But he was awesome. Those guys were really cool. But that's when I knew, like at that moment, I was like, I want to do this full time. I was like, this is so cool. This is so much fun, just being around that environment. Um, I didn't do great, mind you. He beat me up pretty good, but that was my first time. And then ever since then, I went out there and I joined. I was with them for about 3 years before making the transition to Colorado, where I am now.
So it's kind of crazy story. You might be one of the very few that first like boxing sparring session is with this level of the fighter.
Oh yeah, with one of the baddest guys on the planet, and it was just really cool. I did join, Elevation Fight Team, but I was really fortunate. I feel like that I got to train with those guys and just kind of see that old way of like how like fighters used to kind of train back in the day. That kind of just like that grit mentality of like, hey, it's kill or be killed, even in the gym. Like we're fighting at all times. Like there's no it's not as smart. Obviously you want to prolong your career. You don't want to take damage, but with those guys, it was like, who's the toughest? If a new guy comes in from another gym, like your coach is telling you to go beat him up, that kind of thing. So it was a different way of life. It was kind of the old west of the MMA, but it was really cool that I got to come up and experience those roots.
And now in Elevation Fight Team, who is your like main sparring partners, like main training partner, especially for this fight?
Yeah. So one of my, best friends, training partners, great guy. I'm sure you've heard of him, Jon Kunneman. He's fought for APFC. He holds the middleweight belt right now, and he also is fighting on Dana White Contender Series week 2. So me and John became buddies a few years back when he joined the team from Jackson Wink, and we just kind of hit it off. We just started training together because we both come from a wrestling background, um, similar weight classes. So honestly, me and him do most of our training together, and then we also, yeah, as you might have seen on his page, the guy loves hiking, and so do I. So a lot of times we'll go out there, we'll do some of these crazy mountain hikes just to kind of build our endurance, build our cardio, test our mental fortitude. And surprisingly, no other fighters in Colorado, they don't really hike. If they do hike, they're not out there facing those big, bad, terrifying mountains that we kind of like. We accept the challenge and we want to go test ourselves. So we kind of really just kind of became good friends through training, through MMA, and through just the love for mountain hiking. So he's one of my main training partners for this camp. I also have to say Drew Dober, UFC lightweight. He's an awesome guy. I'd like to say he's even a little bit of a mentor. I know he wouldn't want to call himself that yet because he's still an active fighter, but great guy, kind of guy that'll just give you the shirt off his back and just, anytime you want to train, he's down and available to help me with my training camp and pick his brain. So even when I first joined Elevation Fight Team, he was one of the first guys that vouched for me. I was like, hey, I really want this guy on the team. I think he'd make a great addition to the team. So since about 4 years back, we just been kind of hitting off, and we train together a lot. And then I'll have to say, too, it's kind of cool that the guest of honor for this APFC card is Justin Gaethje. I think that's really fortunate and really cool because he's also a training partner of mine. We go up to Onyx sometimes and we'll wrestle with him, and then he'll come to the gym at altitude and we'll get some sparring rounds. And he's just, another just great guy to be around. Good energy, super just, violent. So you have to mind your P's and Q's when you're sparring him, but he's a great training partner. So I think it's really cool that I have all these guys around me, and they're also going to be at the APFC event.
And of course, you mentioned many names, but I think like with Jon, because of course he's like 10-0, he's like destroying everybody, and probably it's good to have something like him because you are probably on the almost the same level because he's on the contender series. You are,
Yep.
let's say, one fight away from being in the contender series. So you are probably growing a little bit in the same moment.
Yep, and that's the coolest part is that we kind of met each other at the same time when I think he was 1-0. I was 2-1, or I think I was 2-1 at the time. I just beat Boris, so we were both early in our career, and then we've kind of taken the same trajectory. We've honestly we because both of we have the same manager with Sergio Pinheiro, and he's also with Showtime now management, our new management. But he's taken me and John on, and he's that guy. He's moved mountains for us. He's done so much for us in the sport. He's gotten us all of our fights. I think John fought 7 times last year. I fought 5. So we just were as busy as possible, and we were traveling to Alaska, North Dakota, just bouncing all around together too, which was the coolest part. To where we can just like both fight on the same card and be in camps together, really just grow and just kind of like help each other through this, uh, through this time in our careers. To where, like you said, now he is right on the cusp of UFC, the dream, because he fought for APFC already. He had that championship belt now. So I'm just, slightly behind in the sense that now, I have my UFC Fight Pass show coming up. Our records are very similar. We both have a, I think he has all finishes to his career, and I have, I'm down there too. So it's a really good time for us both. And I think he'll be in the UFC after his Dana White Contender Series fight, and I'll be in shortly after.
And of course, you train with a lot of good fighters. But when you watch a UFC card or overall like fights from MMA, do you have like maybe one name from either like lightweight or welterweight division, that the fighter that would be really interested in fighting?
Yeah, man. No, that's the fun part is that, right now I watch it, I watch it as a athlete myself, but also as a fan because I'm not in the UFC yet to where I'm watching it, and I'm looking at these guys, and I'm assessing myself with them. I'm like, okay, do I, where do I beat this guy, or where does he beat me? And you have to be honest with yourself. But no, I mean, there's a lot of guys in the lightweight division. I think that even right now that I stack up very well against. I'm big for the weight class. I walk around about 185, so I think that's something I have going for me with the lightweight division. It kills me to make it, but I have such, I think, a strength and size advantage that there's definitely some people that I see myself out stack up very well against. One of the, I think, the top 10 guys who I think would be a really fun fight is Michael Chandler. Just because he's such a big fan fighter. Like, he goes out there and he hunts the knockout. A little wild at times, also wrestling background, built like a tank. I think he looks like a really just fun guy. That would be like a fun fight because like someone's getting finished. It's gonna be hectic. It's gonna be a war, but I think I'd come out on top.
Yes, and about him, it's kind of crazy because like many years ago in Bellator, he was like more of the just a wrestler. His style wasn't so exciting like it is
Oh
right
yeah.
now. But I think that he accomplished so much in Bellator that in the UFC he decided that he just want this like a Conor McGregor fight, this kind of crazy fights, crazy challenges, and he's probably just not thinking about like being the best. He wants to like deliver the most fun that he can.
I would agree with that statement. I think there's a lot of fighters that even kind of how you're saying with even my opponent for APFC, I think that kind of is the same mentality, Michael Chandler has in that like at a certain point you go out there just to fight, you go out there to entertain, you go out there just because you love testing yourself, the grit, and it's like I think Michael Chandler, like you said, because he's accomplished already so much in Bellator, when he got to the UFC, he was like, all right, let's just go make some money. Let's go make a statement. Let's go get the fans, fans to love me because I mean his records are not great in the UFC, but still he's one of the most talked about fighters because he's just exciting. And I think it's a crazy shift we're seeing in the sport to where it's not just about winning. It's not just about wins and losses. It's about how well can you entertain? How well can you be a spectacle? Can you make fights just look fun and just like can you make them look violent? And I think that's where the sport's going, almost a little bit of that WWE kind of essence to where it's like it's about entertainment. And I think the more that we as fighters can lean into that, and of course we want to go out there to win. Like that ultimately is the goal because that it sucks to lose, but at the same time, the more free you are, and you allow yourself not to necessarily focus on the wins and losses, and you want to go out there just for the pureness of testing yourself, to entertain and to like to be your own favorite fighter. I think that even in my career, I'm trying to lean into that more because I know even me watching as a fan, that's what I want to see. I'd want to see somebody who goes out there and risked it all to get the victory, who goes out there and wants to hurt somebody and make a statement and finish them. It's even as a fan, I don't necessarily want to see a guy, and as a wrestler, I don't want to go see a guy just lay on somebody for 3 rounds. I get it; it's smart, you can do it, but even as a fighter and as a fan, that's not what I want to see. So I'm trying to lean into the fighter that I'd want to watch, and I think that that's where the sport's going these days.
Yes, but you definitely have this kind of abilities to finish the opponent. So you are definitely not the fighter who just want to take opponent and win by decision, but even by the number, you are definitely a finisher.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I think that is a credit to my wrestling background. And again, like I said, my size, my strength. I think it's just I have that ability that I can take the fight where I want it to go. And if I want to hold somebody down, I can. But I'm not going to do it just to win the round. I'm going to find my elbows. I'm going to find my strikes. I'm going to find the way to finish it, whether it's submission or a TKO. That's just what I want because it's like I get so excited in there. I think if I were to even this fight coming up next weekend, if I were to win by decision, unanimous decision, okay, good. Like I won, but I wouldn't be happy. I'd be a little bit upset with myself that I didn't find the finish because I believe that I that's the kind of fighter I am. And so if I don't find the finish, that means I'm not living up to my own potential.
Okay, Logan. So many thanks for the time and for conversation. I hope that you will get another finish, and hopefully this will be your like last fight on the regional scene. If not,
Yeah,
maybe a PFC title, but hopefully your fight after this will be in the UFC.
that's the hope, man. That's the hope. And I'm knocking on doors. So no matter what, it's coming. It's inevitable. It's just a little bit more time, maybe.